Let's speak now to Olga Lautman, Senior Fellow at the Center for European Policy Analysis. Thanks for being with us this evening. Diplomacy doesn't seem to have produced huge results so far. Do you think the time for talks may in fact have passed?
I do think so because, look, Putin came into these negotiations with non-starter demands. He clearly showed that he had no intention in, having diplomacy work. And all we have seen is him continuing to, increase the military on Ukraine's borders. So all the signs are looking like, the window to diplomacy is being closed. On the Russian side, it looks like, they were never truly had the intention of diplomacy.
What do you think Vladimir Putin's aim is in all of this?
I honestly think because internally, domestically, Putin for decades, it has viewed Ukraine, as part of Russian territory and just overall they always saw Ukraine as being part of Russia. So I honestly think he does want to invade, and overall on the bigger scale I think he is seeking to kind of reinstate the Soviet Union, because for him that was one of the biggest failures that he had ever seen, as said by him.
Now, Europe's energy dependence on Russia also adds a real layer of complexity in all of this, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And, I think Europe should have started looking for alternatives for energy security. At this point, I know US is, trying to help, making calls and trying to make sure that Europe gets some kind of deliveries from other means. But yeah, it definitely, and we see it even in the response, because while Russia is, threatening to invade a sovereign country, you have some countries in Europe, because of the energy dependence, not willing to, fully respond and, holding back, even at some point, like with Germany's case, where they said, we have to weaken the sanctions package because then it would affect us. And I mean, you can run a foreign policy based on that.
We've seen today the French president Emmanuel Macron spearheading these efforts to try to reach some sort of détente, speaking both to the Russian and Ukrainian presidents today. U.S. efforts to broker sort of peace talks or stand down haven't reached a breakthrough either. What comes next in all of this?
I think the best thing that can happen right now is that the U.S. keep arming Ukraine. Um, U.S. is planning to send troops to protect and secure the eastern flank, and I think we should, keep the door to diplomacy open as long as we can, but at the same time take steps to anticipate if a war breaks out. Because if Russia invades Ukraine at a full-scale invasion, as U.S. intelligence is warning, it can easily leak into EU countries, and NATO countries, and all of Europe can be drawn into war. So I think the preparation needs to be, the diplomacy angle needs to continue to be open, but at the same time, preparations need to be done in the case that a war does erupt and that Putin does invade Ukraine,
NATO,
further invade
NATO
Ukraine.
is very much in focus here, obviously, even though only a very small percentage of its countries actually touch Russia's border. What's the next step for that alliance, do you think?
Well, I think I'm very impressed. The alliance has shown themselves that they will, you know, they were there to deter Russian aggression. And even during the NATO talks, the alliance came 30 countries with one message. And that sent a very strong signal back to Moscow. Even if it doesn't stop the war, at least it is showing that Putin is not going to be able to break the alliance.
All right, Olga Lautman from the Center for European Policy Analysis. Thanks so much for joining us with your insight on France
Thank
24
you.
this evening.